In this video, you can learn how to bake with sourdough and bake your very first tasty sourdough loaf. Guitar freaks and anorexia lovers of the sourdough bread, thanks for tuning in and welcome to HilkoCuisine. I've been asked a lot the last few weeks about sourdough baking. I thought it was a good idea to make a video about it, how to bake your very first sourdough loaf. People, in this video you can learn how to do it, how to bake a tasty bread. Now remember, for sourdough you need a sourdough starter. You can make it yourself, but it takes a lot of weeks till you have a very potent sourdough starter. So just buy one. If you live nearby, you can always contact me. Bring over a nice bottle of fine wine and we can make a deal. Now, let's bake this, shall we? Let's do it. People, we are starting off with about 200 grams of ice cold water. Then we wetten the spoon so it's not that sticky and add 75 grams of starter. Then we add 200 grams of white strong flour. We mix that all together till there is no lumps left and we scrape the sides. We cover that party and we put that on room temperature and let it at least double in size. This will take you about 4 to 8 hours depending on your temperature. Look at it go, people. Up it goes, ready for baking. We add the pre-ferment into a large bowl and again we wet our tools so it's not that sticky. So we got 452 grams of starter. Then we take 1 liter of ice cold water. Speaking of water, people, I prefer fine wine. If you can get ice cold water from a spring from Scotland, from the Highlands, please use it. Anyhow, add that water to the starter and then we're gonna add 500 grams of whole wheat flour. That's the whole wheat stuff. After the whole natural whole wheat stuff, we're adding 900 grams of strong white flour. That's with a protein content of at least 12%. Here is the fine wine. I was bored of that water. Here is our mixing machine, people. The hand. Move away the fine wine. It's too dangerous. Play a man machine. The man machine. Mix everything together till again there is no lumpage left. You know, fold it over itself. Massage it, do whatever you like with it, but don't spit in it. Mixing the flour, the water and the starter will take you about like 3 to 5 minutes. And yes, it is a sticky mess. That's why we're cleaning one hand off with our spatula. Now cover it and leave it for 35 minutes. Now take 30 grams of sea salt and very precisely sprinkle it over. Just throw it in. Then take 50 grams of water. Wet your hand and work the salt in. Put the rest of the water over it and start working that water in there, people. Do what you want, but I would do it like this. Fold it over to itself till you're happy. This will take you like 2 to 3 minutes and then scrape the sides with a scraper. Cover and let rest for 30 minutes. 30 minutes later, we're gonna fold this thing. We're gonna stretch it and fold it over itself like this. Just take a corner, stretch it and fold it over. Do this about 6 to 8 times. Then cover and let rest for another 30 minutes, people. We're gonna repeat the previous step one more time. People, please note that you work the dough with wet tools. So my hand is wet. Otherwise, it will be very sticky. Cover it again and let it rest for another 30 minutes. We're developing gluten here. Now we're gonna do something really crazy, people. Wet your work surface and get that dough out of that bowl. We are going to stretch that dough out as big as we can without tearing it. The reason we do this is so we can develop a network of gluten that will capture the CO2 that our sourdough will produce. Now fold it into 3. I'm making a mess of this because it's a learning curve, you know. Then I roll it up and add some stretchiness to it. By the way, the CO2 trapped into that gluten network will create those holes in your bread, people. And don't forget to pat your dough once a while. It will like it. Now cover this and let it rest again for 30 minutes, people. Open this up and we're gonna stretch it by lifting it up. Unfortunately, my bowl is not that heavy, so it's acting up or it just doesn't want to leave the dough. What you do is you lift it up and you let it stretch. Fold it underneath each other. Cover it again and let it rest for 30 minutes. I think we worked hard enough every 30 minutes, so wethen your work surface again, and no, we're not gonna stretch it out. We're going to roughly shape that dough. Fold it like a nice package and then spin it around in your hands. Then we're gonna divide it in two. I'm chancing it, people. Will it be equal? Place your bets now. Place your bets now. Rien ne va plus. No, it's not. It's doing my nothing. The dough is all stressed out by cutting it, so we're gonna pre-shape it. Just fold it over each other and spin it around a bit. Don't work it too hard, people. It's already stressed out enough, that poor dough. Go completely crazy and poke it a bit with your bench scraper. Now repeat the same thing with the other loaf. Cover it with a towel and let it rest for 15 minutes. Let it chill. Now add some flour on top. We're adding the flour because we're gonna flip it. Make sure it's not sticking to the bench, so use your bench scraper. Grab it and flip it over. Do it again with the other one. Bam! Take some more flour and sprinkle it around the two pieces of dough. Now take your bench scraper and work that flour underneath the dough. Then we're gonna fold it in three, fold the other side over, and roll it up again. You will create some tension in the dough, and that's good for the oven spring later. Do exactly the same with the other loaf, and don't forget to pat your dough once a while. Not all of you will have a baneton, so take a sieve, take a towel, and generously cover that towel with flour. Let it snow flour, people. Now move that dough over and pinch that seam closed. Add some more flour and say bye-bye dough for now. Now take the real baneton if you got one and do the same thing. Try to pinch that seam. It doesn't want to work along, but anyhow, cover it with flour. Then take some cling film, put some oil on there and cover your baneton. This party is going to rest in the fridge for 12 hours, people. It's going to ferment and create a lot of flavor. So the next day you preheated a cast iron pot into your oven. You open up that first loaf and you say, hello loaf. Flip it over onto some parchment paper. By the way, that Dutch oven was preheating for 1 hour full blast in your oven. Now take a very sharp knife and score your bread under an angle. Put the bread into the Dutch oven. Cover it up and whack it into your oven. Turn down the heat just a little bit. After 20 minutes, take the lid off the Dutch oven, people. That bread was steaming in there, and look at that oven spring, people. Close the oven again, turn it down to 220 degrees and bake it for 30 more minutes. Dear bakers, be very careful. I've got asbestos hands. Take the loaf out of the Dutch oven and weigh it. It was 1300 something. Now it's 1200 something. So we lost 100 grams of water. People, thank you so much for watching. Next time I will cut open this loaf and show you the crumb. I will see you next time with an alternative way to bake the other loaf. Don't forget to subscribe and tinkle the bell. Happy baking, home bakers. I really hope you learned something and you bake this bread even better than this one. If you do, take a picture and post it on the interwebs and use the hashtag GuitarMakersFOOD. Bye bye for now.